Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we're looking at is the Konosuke GS Plus line. This is the 240 Gyuto. Mark made some improvements to this line with Konosuke, and he's calling it the GS Plus line. Some improvements they've made include increasing the hardness of the core steel to make it have better edge retention. They've also done a little bit higher fit and finish on the blade, the spine, the choil. They've Mark said they've kind of cleaned up the grinds and made a little higher performance grinds, and they've also changed the handle out and the handle install type. So what we have is a core steel of a semi-stainless steel with kind of a good compromise between stain resistance and ease of sharpening. So you'll gain some ease of sharpening versus a full stainless steel typically at the expense of some stain resistance. But as long as you clean them up, wipe them down, and dry them off when you're done, they're usually pretty stain resistant. You might get some spotting, but it's nothing like a full-on reactive carbon steel. The heat treat's about 61 to 62 Rockwell on these, and the construction is a 3-layer sandwich with a softer stainless steel cladding on either side of that core steel. We'll show you a close-up of the cladding line, but it's a little bit hard to see, especially with it down a little further, but we'll take a look at that. These are light knives. They are thin, laser-style knives, so even though this is a 240 and a fairly tall one, it's only 4.5 ounces, 127 grams, so it's really light. The balance point, being that the handle is fairly light, brings that balance point in this one about to where that square kanji symbol with the kanji inside of it is, and that brings that slightly in front of my pinch grip. So you get a real light knife, but you get just a little bit of weight forward balance to it to kind of help you feel like you've got a little more mass in your hand, but overall it's very, very light. So it's kind of a cool effect. For you, if you got bigger hands, you might have a pinch grip right on the money. For me, it's slightly in front. The curve of the choil into the neck gives you a perfect spot for your finger for a pinch grip. The edge length on this is about 235 or 9¼ inches, and the overall length is about 15.5 inches. These are thin knives, as I said. The spine thickness coming out of the handle above the back of the blade or the chin is about 2¼ millimeter, and pretty much just gradually tapers down and gets thinner as you go. Pretty much continuous taper, and then it thins out to a really high performance tip, so it gets quite thin at the very tip. The height on these is pretty generous, 49.6 for this particular one, so almost 50, and loads of clearance for your finger for board work. The handles on these are an octagonal ambidextrous, what they call key chestnut, so it's kind of a lighter color. They've also got some key walnut on some of their knives. The handle circumference on this handle, this particular handle, is about 74 millimeters, is slightly under 3 inches, about 1 inch on the front, although these really don't have any taper to them. They're kind of a straight shape as far as that, no taper. Let's take a close-up look. These are machine finished blades, so here is your finish on the knife. You can kind of see the grind and the convex to the grind as you come down from the spine towards the edge. You've got some I shouldn't say hand, you've got some embossed kanji and maker's mark and symbol there. It's nicely embossed. Left side of the blade is plain. Again, machine finished. There's your kind of cladding line there. You can see that. It's pretty faint, but it's definitely there. Fit and finish is real nice on the spine with a polish and a round to it. They've done some fit and finish work to the choil as well. This one does have a little bit of an edge to it that could be cleaned up some more, but the spine is really comfy. The handle, they're octagonal, ambidextrous. They're a little thinner and taller as opposed to being a little more squarish. Equal proportions. This could change in the future if Mark decides to switch out the handles, but that's what they are right now. The handle install, they've chosen consciously to make an aesthetic decision with kind of a harken back to old school style installs, and this is called a maki. This is part of the tang showing right behind the front of the neck. And what that traditionally is there for is if the handle loosens up a little bit over time, you can pound the handle back in, and you've got a little bit of room to work with to pound the handle on and get it tighter again. And these new installs, it's really an aesthetic decision, so there's nothing wrong with the install. It's just a conscious choice on their part. I personally think it looks pretty cool, but that's a traditional style of install. Let's take a look at it on the cutting board. And before we do that, we'll look at the edge. So these are really thin at the edge. The tip gets quite thin with the way the grind works. And so these are laser style blades. They're got some flex to them, but they're fairly stiff considering the thinness of the blade, but they've got some flex to them. Not a lot, but some. Here's your profile. Kind of a gentle curve, not a whole lot of flat. You got a little bit of flat in the back part of the blade, but not a whole lot. And you can see you got a little bit of back belly at the heel, so we just kind of roll into that. There's not a definitive flat spot. Overall, somewhat curvy. You can see a fairly generous belly towards the tip. I can get this baby pretty high before I start digging the tip in. Every knife will be just a little different, but that's the general style of the profile. So it's not a full-on chopping type knife if you just do pure up and down chopping strokes. It's got a little more of that roundy profile. Excellent, of course, for rocking, or if you've got some push-pull and you can kind of follow the curve of that blade with your knife strokes, would work well for you. So really thin, high performance, very, very light, nice fit and finish. On the blade, semi-stainless steel for relative ease of maintenance plus easy sharpening. It's a cool line they've got. So this is the Konosuke GS Plus Gyuto, the 240mm model.